Hey Yogins, it's Yogi Doug Johnson back with another talk for you. And I gave a talk a few weeks ago about that the world doesn't owe you anything, or God doesn't owe you anything. And today I wanted to talk about, what do you owe to the world or to other people? Do you owe something to other people in the world? So in a sense, I don't think that you owe anything to anybody in particular. I'm not saying don't honor your contracts. I'm not saying don't try and repay favors. I'm not saying don't try and help people who've helped you in the past. But a lot of times in human relationships, we run into a lot of trouble when we think that we owe someone something, and when they believe that too, and then they use that to sort of emotionally blackmail us or do something along those lines. And one of the ways we know this is we're feeling a lot of guilt, or we're feeling badly about things. We aren't doing something, we're not coming from the right place. We're not coming from love. We're not coming from compassion or empathy. We're doing something because we feel guilty or shameful. And in my experience, that doesn't really lead to anything good, not for ourselves and not for other people as well. Even though other people might think that they need to shame or guilt us into helping them or doing what they want, that's only because they haven't realized certain spiritual truths. So we'd like to realize these truths ourselves and thus never do that to other people, but also be immune to other people manipulating us in that way. This makes our life much simpler and much more enjoyable. So what do you owe to the world? Do you owe anything to the world? Do you owe anything to anyone? And I think the answer is yes, you do. So you may not owe individuals, like maybe your parents, a debt of gratitude. Hopefully, if you were raised well, you naturally feel indebted to your parent. You want to help them, not because you feel guilty. Does that make sense? So same with someone who does you a favor. If they need a hand, hopefully you just naturally feel like you want to help them. They don't have to say, hey, remember that time that I did that favor? You owe me, right? So this is very natural when we are living right as human beings. We naturally want to help one another. We naturally want to repay debts. Oftentimes, many times the amount that we got paid in the first place, we want to repay even more very often, especially when someone helps us out of a bind. So when people feel like they have to guilt us or shame us into doing things, and we're doing it out of a sense of shame or guilt, very often something isn't right. Something isn't going on right, either with us or with the other person. We're in some kind of an unhealthy relationship. But I do think you owe the world something, and I think you owe the world to be yourself and to be your best self and to find your own source of inner peace and joy and to find the love that lives within you and to share that with the world. And one of the ways that you share that with the world is by reaching your full potential. I think in modern life, many of us feel like we've had to put aside our talents, we've had to put aside our dreams, we've had to put aside a lot in order to meet expectations of the modern world and modern life. And I'm not saying that we don't have to meet certain expectations, that we don't need to work or go to school, but very often we might find at a certain point in our life that we've done everything we were supposed to do. We were good little boys and girls, and yet something inside of us has really died. So I don't think that that is how life is supposed to be from a spiritual perspective. We want to rekindle that light that is inside of us, that love and excitement for life. Who's to say what we're supposed to do in this life, what we're supposed to pursue? Does life need to make sense? Does it need to be safe? Maybe we're meant to take certain risks in life. Maybe you were meant to write that children's book that you always wanted to write, or to become a photographer like you've always dreamt of doing. Okay, so again, a lot of times when we're young, the people around us who oftentimes have lost that inner light and they've lost that joy themselves, they are encouraging us to do the safe thing and to do the right thing. And yet, we can see in them that they're not really being their best self, that they're not really living from that sense of peace and joy. Now, it's very important. I want to make a point that I'm not advocating a hedonistic lifestyle here. So when I'm talking about peace and joy and finding that, I'm not suggesting that you necessarily take your life savings and take that trip to India that you always wanted to take. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Maybe I'm not advocating that you go buy that Mercedes-Benz because you think that's going to make you happy. This isn't really so much about doing specific things or getting certain things or even particular relationships in your life. This is more about what's going on inside of you. Finding the peace, joy, and love that is inherent in all of creation. And then once you've discovered that, that naturally will begin to pour forth into the world. And this is what the world needs right now. It needs you at your best. And you're not going to become your best just because you get what you want in the world. Okay, so I'm not talking about getting what you want. I'm not talking about vision boarding. Nothing wrong with vision boarding, but that's not what I'm talking about. Okay, so this isn't about living your best life in the sense of, oh, you're going to get what you want and then you're going to be happy and then you're going to help other people. No, this is about finding inner peace and joy, and then from that, your life manifests the life of your dreams. And then every moment becomes the moment that you've been dreaming of. All right, guys, I hope you found this talk helpful. Please remember that if you do, I really appreciate you giving me a thumbs up. If there's a question, leave it down below in the comments. And of course, please subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out. So I want to ask you guys, have you ever been meant to feel like you owe something to someone? And how did that make you feel? And how did you act as a result? Also, have you found your inner light and love, and has that begun to manifest in your world? And how has it manifested for you as maybe creativity, as more energy, as a desire to help others? I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, Yogins, thank you so much for listening. Namaste.